Hey everyone. Okay, let's talk about IEP meetings and what's happening when you show up without all the facts or the people that you're relying on at the IEP meeting don't have all the facts. This happens all the time. For those of you that don't know, I have been in the field professionally for over 25 years, helping parents and teachers build IEPs that work in the real world. I'm a special needs sibling. My brother's in his 40s. He has Down syndrome. I have been in the special needs community my entire life. I was a special education teacher. I've seen so many different perspectives at the IEP table, and we're getting ready for our final Master IEP Coach mentorship of the school year, which means we're talking about all the hot topics, all the things that, quite honestly, people don't talk about a whole lot. They're like hidden struggles inside of special education, and it makes everybody feel alone. It makes them feel like things are terrible, they can't be fixed, it's heartbreaking. It just feels overwhelming. It's frustrating. And that's not just for parents. It's for teachers too. Everything that I'm talking about is for parents and for teachers because we need to know this information together. You have to work together at the IEP table, so you need to train together so you can build IEPs that work. So who has ever been at an IEP meeting? Go ahead and put your favorite emoji below. Who's ever been at an IEP meeting where all that it did is lead to the next meeting? Like you sat there for 45 minutes to an hour. Everybody did all the things that they had, so they presented their data, or they talked about present levels, or they brainstormed maybe a few ideas. But it feels like when you walked out of the meeting, you're like, what just happened? And now we just need to have another meeting. Did you know that there's strategies that you can use before the IEP meeting? Whether you're a parent or you're a professional at the table, you can implement strategies to make sure that the meetings are effective. You can also make sure that you are not having meetings that are unnecessary. Meaning that, did you know that you can change majority of things in an IEP without even having a meeting? So you don't have to have that meeting that just leads to another meeting. You can make sure that you're prepared. A lot of this comes from what's called a parent input statement. Now, sometimes when we're going to an IEP meeting, the school is setting the agenda of what needs to happen. In fact, most of the time, it's like that, right? So, and before I forget, here, let me go ahead and put up this link right here. If you're nodding your head with any of this, you're like, yes, and I need some more strategies. And this is what's happening. I need you guys to run over to masteriepcoach.com and make sure that you sign up for the Tuesday free IEP training, where I'm going to be sharing more of what's happening right now, messy mistakes that are happening in IEPs, so we can get those fixed. So let's go back to typically the school sets the agenda, right? Here, we're going to have this IEP meeting. They send you this meeting notice. There's boxes checked. It says, this is what we're going to do. Now, most parents look at that piece of paper and they say, what does this mean? Like, we're going to, evaluate progress, or we're going to look at eligibility. There's just these broad categories on a meeting notice. And do you really know what's going to happen? Has the agenda been sent to the entire team before you even get there? Have you had a chance to know what you're going to be walking into point by point by point? Did you know that many times, and parents, this might surprise you, that school agenda that's put together, sometimes you walk in. Some school districts do this, some don't. I mean, I've sat at like thousands of IEP meetings and there's no consistency between them. It just is what it is. Sometimes there's a list of, let's say, 8 things that need to happen during the IEP meeting. Out of those 8 things, I would say only maybe 5 of them are customized to this specific meeting, because it's like staff intros. And at the end, it'll be like, make copies of paperwork for parents. So it's the in-between stuff. Did you know that most of the time, the entire team hasn't even seen that agenda before they walk in the room? It's not just parents who are seeing it for the first time. It's that staff have not seen that either. So we want to avoid that situation. One of the easiest ways to really avoid this, what are we walking into and what are we really going to get accomplished? And oops, we didn't get anything done, so let's have another meeting. One of the biggest strategies that you can use that's proactive and collaborative is making sure that you have a very clear parent input statement or a parent advocacy letter, a parent making a 1-page letter. That's all that it takes, that says, thanks team, I'm looking forward to getting together, to having this meeting on this day, and just confirm the day and time. The following are my parent concerns? And then list them out, 3 to 5 bullet points, no more. It has to fit on one page. Why? Because it's a strategy that works. Because we could all write a book on all the things that you're worried about as a parent. I'm telling you how to structure one meeting. Okay? We take this one meeting at a time. You put in 3 to 5 bullet points of what the concerns are, of what you assume you're going to be talking about when you get there. So it might be that your child still doesn't have access to their Chromebook, that the speech therapist hasn't shown up for 2 weeks, that the life skill goals have been met because, you've been at home. So you've been working on life skills all the time. So the life skill goals have been met, and you want to discuss placement for next year. Like, you want to make sure that these are the talking points, that the team knows it. Like, there's no reason to show up with your notebook and all the things like, I can't forget to say this. No, give it to them beforehand. So you want to have this strategy of putting in this parent advocacy letter ahead of time. Teachers, therapists, admins, you need to encourage the parents to do this. This is what makes a meeting move forward. This is what allows everybody to bring what they need to the table to discuss the points that are on the agenda from the parents' perspective. And those absolutely can be put into the school's agenda of what needs to get covered, either from their perspective of just what's the unique situation that's happening, and then from the administrative side of things like everybody has to introduce themselves and sign a attendance sheet that they were there. So it's super important that you never again walk into an IEP meeting without knowing the agenda. If you do, there is a good chance that there's going to be a lot of loose ends because people will not be prepared. Now, that agenda, again, might come from the school, but I want you to go next level and make sure that parents are putting their input into the agenda of the IEP meeting of what the highest concerns are for that specific meeting that we need everybody around for. This is not about like, I'm concerned that, my child left their coat on the bus. No, not those kind of concerns. We're talking specific concerns that absolutely require the entire IEP team to be present for us to collaborate and find solutions and make decisions, maybe bring some data, show some proof of what's been happening or some documentation of what's not been happening. We need to have all of that at the IEP table for that to be an effective meeting. We have Estella who says, if we have an IEP meeting, can we ask for another meeting if we see they aren't doing the goal? Sure. They didn't want to talk to me about next year placement like the high school. Okay, so that's two separate issues. Here, let me just show you guys. Let's go for the first one here. If we have an IEP meeting, can we ask for another meeting? You can, but meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting puts you in the circle loop of just having a lot of unproductive meetings typically. So a lot of things, if you see they aren't doing the goal, you can get it documented at the meeting of like what's not happening, but then the follow-up doesn't necessarily have to be a meeting. The follow-up can be written communication. It can be observation. It could be data being shared. There's so many different options than pulling everybody back to an IEP meeting. You guys know there's a long list of people that have to be introduced or have to be invited and present at every IEP meeting. Is it necessary to pull possibly, let's just say this is a reading goal that hasn't been worked on effectively. Do we need to pull everybody? Do we need to pull the OT and the speech? And do we have to pull everybody for that? Or is that something that we can work on the accountability of that goal outside of the IEP meeting? You can do that. Now you can have it written in the IEP what the accountability steps will be. So very important to make sure the accountability is there, but you don't necessarily need another meeting. Then Estella also asked, they didn't want to talk to me about next year's placement, like the high school. Well, number one, a lot of people are avoiding that placement conversation because they have no idea what's going on in the schools. Are we going to be in person? Is there going to be a virtual option? If you are going to be in person, are the class sizes going to be different? All different things. So Estella, you do need to make sure that you put in writing that you want to discuss high school placement. And that, again, that does not need to be a full meeting to get the conversation started. What you need to make sure you're asking for is you want to see what's called the full continuum of placements. This full continuum of placements is everything that's, you don't necessarily have to see, like physically see all of the options at the school, but you should see at least 2, I prefer at least 3 high school options. Now, sometimes a district will say, well, we have this program over here, but it wouldn't be appropriate. Okay, let me see that for my own eyes. That's for you as a parent. You want to be able to see it with your own eyes. You do not know what's right if you don't know what's wrong. The way that you get a school to allow you to see a variety of placements is to make sure that they understand that you are an equal IEP participant, and to make a decision, you need equal information that they have. So people in that school, they know what program A, program B, and program C looks like. They also know that program A probably wouldn't be appropriate, but we're deciding between B and C. They've already ruled out A, but you've never gotten to see A, so you don't know if you're happy with B and C because you don't even know what A looks like. So it's important for you to really express to the team that they have information about program A that you don't have. So they're making a decision of saying, let's decide between B and C. And that leaves you out as an equal participant. You don't have the same amount of information. So you need to get this conversation going in writing. You need to make sure that people are accountable to that. There's a way to put this together, Estella, in a one-page letter. Estella, if you are not signed up in the next Master IEP Coach mentorship, I highly suggest that you come in and join us. You can go ahead and get the first step over at masteriepcoach.com, because you just said that your son's going to be transferring into high school. Couple of things. One, there's a lot of decisions that do have to be made, right? High school becomes those years that you're like, shoot, everything, has just happened so quickly. How did we get here into high school? And now we've got some big decisions to make about transition planning, about transition goals, but what type of support services? How do we truly make sure that the child is learning at the level that's going to make them as independent as possible in the areas of further education, employment, independent living? You have to be able to speak with confidence on all of those areas, because you are the one that's responsible for your son post-high school, not the high school team, you. So you need to know how to do all of these things. We've got a couple of really great transition experts that are Master IEP coaches that are in our Master IEP Coach mentorship. In fact, one of them, her name is Lisa, and she's a Master IEP Coach progress coach. What that means is she has been very successful as a Master IEP coach. And every week during this mentorship, Lisa and Courtney lead this progress coaching session. Lisa specializes in that transition age. She has a child who is, I can't remember how old her son is, but I do know that he drives and he's on the spectrum. And she was told a long time ago when he was very little that she needed to look at alternative housing and basically not to expect too much. And she has broken down all of those boundaries and those barriers, and she has become a Master IEP coach so she can help other families, specifically at this transition age, ages 14 and up, to make sure that the transition plans are what they need to be so a child is ready for whatever the future may bring. So I'm going to encourage you, Estella, to go hop over to masteriepcoach.com and get connected. You'll get a free training on Tuesday, and then I'll share with you the next steps to become a Master IEP coach. In summary, you guys, don't go into your next IEP meeting without knowing what the agenda is. Parents, make sure that you're participating in creating that agenda by providing your parent input. And don't forget to grab your free training over at masteriepcoach.com so we can talk about 3 other messy IEP mistakes that are happening right now and the first step for you to become a Master IEP coach. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. I'll talk to you soon.